All right, let's get started here. Going to go through some fantasy lineups for Philadelphia and Dallas. Compare the different players. Of course, we got stars like Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and of course Barkley and CeeDee Lamb. We're going to mix a match and put them up against their cohorts from the other team. But we're going to get started down here with the wide receiver number fours. Terrace Marshall Jr. Hey, one time on a video game, he was ranked at 91. His teammate Jamar Chase was ranked as a 92. So glory days back in LSU here. Caught 23 touchdown passes over the last 2 years. All right, we're taking him up against Mingo, Jonathan Mingo. Both of these came from Carolina, drafted and rejected. So teams pick up their leftovers, see if they can make something of them. 167 yards receiving. He had some glory days back in college as well. Came in under McCarthy. They just recently gave a 4th-round pick to acquire him. So you can see the success in the NFL here has not been very good for either of them. Marshall, though, has had 4 years to try to prove himself and hasn't. And where we see that Mingo here, even though he only finished 134th last year, has only been in the league 2 years. High draft capital. He was 39th pick overall. And I think we're going to go with him getting the first point. So Dallas gets on the board early with 1 point. All right, we're going to score these. And you can see here, for the wide receiver 4, I'm going to give 1 point and progressively give more points as the positions increase and more importance. So, and I'm going to go through the different things. Dallas happens to play Philadelphia week 1. I'm probably going to go through the different ones and kind of have to see how this works out. So let's get back here. We've got Dallas up 1 point. We're going to go to the backup quarterbacks. We're going to take on Tanner McGee, Philadelphia backup quarterback. He got in the game last year, finished 52nd with amongst the quarterbacks last year. 323 yards, 4 touchdown passes, going up against Joe Milton III from Dallas, right? He was picked up from New England. Been working with Dak, says he's pleased to be there. Wasn't sure where he was going to land. Of course, with Drake May up there, he doesn't have much room left. Had an impressive 1 game last year. 241 yards passing. SI ranks him 17th among the backup quarterbacks. And Tanner McGee here, they ranked him 19th. And they were kind of thinking they could trade him, possibly get some capital for him if quarterbacks or teams are hurting for a quarterback. And then that way they could get DTR, who they had got in the Kenny Pickett trade. Maybe they get him in there. So I'm going to go with the SI rankings. One was 19, one was 17. I'll just go over there. I'm not above copying someone else's homework. So that gives Dallas up to a 2-point lead. All right, Dallas takes an early lead. Now we're going to do the backup running backs. This is running back number 3. So we got A.J. Dillon, right? He had nothing last year. He did nothing. No points last year. Sat out with a neck injury. But the year before the neck injury, he was 3.4 yards a carry. Not very good. Not very efficient. Miles Sanders brought into Dallas. He hasn't been, apparently he's been doing really good. Given an effort, he only finished 58th last year. Only 205 yards rushing. But hey, Mike Fisher of the Fish Report there in Cowboys follows the Cowboys. Says, hey, if they had to make the cuts today, there's no way they're cutting Miles Sanders. He's been having a good OTA in camp so far. So, and relevant, he's got 54 points in fantasy last year, where A.J. Dillon's unproven. We're going with Miles Sanders again. Dallas takes an early 3-point lead with a further depth. Now we'll move on to the number 2 running backs on each team. If you're liking what you're seeing, please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe button. Do it today. Be the first on your block. Hit that subscribe button. Thumbs up. Thank you. Will Shipley. All right, didn't get in the game much last year. Finished 103rd. Of course, Barkley hogging all the carries. So, hey, he had 82 yards rushing. With Kenneth Gainwell gone, they're going to hope that he gets in the game more. Of course, if something did happen to Barkley and you take him as a handcuff, Dillon and Shipley might share the deal. Where here we got the new rookie Jaden Blue coming in for Dallas. All right, no points. Of course, he's a rookie coming in. Hey, he needs refinement in his running between the tackles and holding on to the football. So, even though here in Dallas, the running back, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, of course, Miles Sanders could be the ranked number 2. I just think for the majority of the season, it might end up being this Blue. Of course, Javonte Williams, just unsettled there at running back. That's why Jaden Blue is almost the better pick, because we got Will Shipley over here. Well, his only hope to get in there is if something happens to Barkley. Barkley's just a hog there, getting all the carries. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Jaden Blue again. Dallas takes a 4-point lead with the promise here. With it unsettled at running back, hey, he might end up being the number 1 there. Where Shipley, there's no chance he'll be number 1 there unless of injury, and then they would platoon anyway. So Dallas, takes an early 4-0 lead. So now we'll move on to the wide receivers, number 4. All right, or number 3. We'll start with Jahanni Dotson, brought over from Washington. All right, finished 124th last year. Hey, he did got a touchdown in the wild card game against Green Bay. So catching on late, got some noise there. And although Tolbert here, you can see 103 fantasy points to 22. Really no competition here. Tolbert was hot last year. Finished 44th among wide receivers. 610 yards, 6 touchdowns. Pickens might get his fair share of mismatches, but Tolbert should have even more. So, of course, Pickens is brought in. There's no chance Tolbert going to be number 2, but he's number 3. And with 610 yards receiving compared to 216, we're going with Talbert. Right? So far, Dallas takes a 5-0 lead with this deep bench. Just a little better than the players here with Philadelphia. And we're going to move up to the next up. We've got the number 2 wide receiver position. Starts with the Thin Reaper, Devontae Smith. All right, finished 28th last year, average of 10.1. All right, 833 yards, 8 touchdowns. Hey, that 10.12 average he missed some games. You see here, he got the 47th most touches, but hey, finished 28th. Very efficient on the point or the touches he was getting. George Pickens, of course, comes over from Pittsburgh. He was finished 39th with a 7.74 average and had 900 yards receiving. So he's just glad to be here in Dallas. Continue the winning culture they have, saying the right things, try not to be any trouble there. So we see here 130 more points in average last year. They're both very similar. We're going to go to the schedule. Philadelphia has the 12th easiest schedule for wide receivers compared to Dallas with a 30th. Now they're going to try out Pickens, but hey, CeeDee Lamb still rules the roost there. And this Tolbert, like we went over, isn't too bad. Finished 44th last year, where Pickens finished 39th. So we'll see here. But you can see there they have the 30th schedule. A little more difficult for them. So we're going to go with Philadelphia getting on the board with Devontae Smith. All right. Next up, we'll bring up the tight ends. This is kind of a close one here. You can see they both had 490 yards receiving. All right. But the average per game here, 6 points versus 3 points. Dallas Goedert finished 26th among tight ends with a 6.1 average. Pay attention to that average. That's going to make the difference here. where he missed games, 15 games over the last 3 years, and that's kind of what happened here. Jake Ferguson, down year last year, finished 32nd with only a 3.5 point average, 494 yards receiving. Ferguson missed action with a knee injury and concussion last year. They bothered him, but in the games they did play, we had one with 6 point average and one with 3.5. So we're going to give the little edge there to Dallas Goedert. All right. And his schedule's just a little easier. We got 22nd versus the 32nd. Dallas ain't got no help here with the schedule maker. So in position 32nd for the tight end. That's not so good. So, hey, we got a 5-5 tie here. We move on to the wide receivers. All right, wide receiver, we're progressively getting more points as we move up the rankings here. We have A.J. Brown. All right, A.J. Brown finished 18th last year. Look at that average, 11.5 average last year. Had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Ranked by Pro Football Focus as the best wide receiver in the NFL. This is just recent rankings. I know you CD Lamb fans are saying, wait a minute, what about CD Lamb? CD Lamb finished 9th with 10.9. Up there too. Hey, 1,190 yards, 6 touchdowns. Of course, he finished number 1 a year ago when he had the league-leading 135 receptions. Came back to earth last year with 101. Of course, Dak was out, missed those games. So, hey, we get down to the average here. A.J. Brown did just a little better. These two are right at it. We go to their yearly. You can see A.J. Brown's always been over 10 here, 11, 12 looking like. And we go to CD Lamb. And you can see, hey, he had, other than that 2023 year, he's right there back to the norm. So they're very close. And very close here. CD Lamb, most people view as the higher ranked one. You can see here, consensus ranking has A.J. Brown 7th, CD Lamb 3. So it's very close. Will the addition of Pickens here help free up CD Lamb a little bit from double teamed? And Dak Prescott coming back. But you see Dak Prescott's position schedule, 32nd. Terrible schedule makers here. And CD Lamb's got the 30th. I guess we're going to go with what PFF says here. They picked A.J. Brown as their number 1 ranked wide receiver. I won't go against that. We'll pick him as their, give them the points. So next up, we've got Barkley and Javonte Williams, the running backs. Right? Of course, Barkley finished with number 1 overall, 20 points a game in average. 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. Some retirement talk here. It's just talk. Maybe one day I'll, out of nowhere, call it quits like Barry Sanders did. It was a recent comment. You got him up against Javonte Williams. Been disappointing these last few years. 32nd, 500 yards last year. What's funny is one guy put it best. Williams was a clear starter to start the year last year, but by the end of the season, it was a 3-way committee. So obviously the points are going to go here to Barkley. And we'll move on to the top quarterbacks. And we go with Jalen Hurts here. Jalen Hurts finished 6th, 19.2 average there. So a little down in the passing, though, only 18 touchdown passes and less than 3,000 yards passing. Hey, the Pro Football Focus has him as the number 5 quarterback in rankings. Of course, everybody, that average here, look at the comparison here, 19.2 to 13.2 for Dak. This is only taken in when Dak was in there. Of course, Dak missed games last year with the injury. So, and he comes back to a tough schedule. You know, yes, they added Pickens. That should help them. But Dallas, you know, Dak Prescott finished 32nd, down year. One of the things here is over the first 4 years of his career, he averaged 305 yards rushing a year. Over the first 4 years, the last 4 years, he's only been averaging 156 yards a game. Right? That's a point a game. You look at that, and more importantly, it's the touchdowns. In those first 4 years, he had 21 rushing touchdowns. The last 4 years, he's had 5 rushing touchdowns. See where he's really dropped off in the running part that gave it a little spice to his game. So with that average, of course, we're going to go with Jalen Hurts here and give them the points. So Dallas got off to a strong start with some deeper talent, but Philadelphia with that top heavy really came through and wins with a 15-5. So let's look at this.